Howdy, I'm Batista. My friends call me Bunny. It's a long story. We're in my studio this morning. Last night I was up pretty late. I was in here making some headway on the plaster cast study I did. In fact, that's a good name. Episode 10, Making Headway. So, as you can see, at this point, more completion, lights and darks. I erase out my lights, but I go in and I add my core shadow and my cast shadow. Let's have a look at how I go about doing that.
In the previous session, I ended off by kind of cleaning up the image. I took a very soft fan brush, wiped over the entire surface, partially to knock back everything, but also to remove charcoal. And you'll see now I've got to pick up my eraser and erase back into that slightly toned paper more crisp lights. If you look to the left, where you actually see the actual model, you can see the areas of contrast of light and dark. And what I'm doing is lifting out the lightest areas first, just as general block areas, quite simplified. I'm putting in some dark so that I can see what my ability to get contrast is. And I like to make my core shadow quite dark to have a higher area of contrast between the light and the dark. And then I like to lift a bunch of the dark out so that my reflected lights are a little bit lighter. And this gives it a very graphical, finished look. But it also has that kind of like a comic book inking style effect. So I am going to push my shadows to a lot darker than what you see here. And like in many ways that I instruct drawing and painting, squinting the eye for the overall simple shapes. So we can call this big form modeling, the head being a sphere. All the parts in most drawing that you do, all the parts need to be simplified into their simplest shapes first, and you shade that, and then you build areas within and without, so on top of, coming out, and that's all that form really is. Areas of light and dark, what's coming in, what's going out, what's being hit by light, and what's in shadow. So I don't really have a direction that I go. I move around and kind of feel out the different areas, adding light and dark. And the most important area really to keep the focus on is where you look. And in the case of doing a bust, that tends to be the eye area. So I'm spending a little more time finding the details, and also you'll notice a bit higher contrast here between the light and the dark. And I just go through removing and adding material to create the big shapes first along the whole drawing surface. At a certain point, you need to figure out how much lighter, how much darker things need to go. So I have to re-darken the outside in some areas to create the proper contrast to help me really balance the lights and darks that I'm putting on the head shape. And in doing so, you'll see that the right side, the core and cast shadows, are quite dark. I know that I'm going to have to darken and lighten areas as I revisit it, but really at this point I have something that I like. Now I'll come back for finer details and refinement.
Thanks for joining me for episode 10. I'm not sure what will be in the next episode. I'm not sure what I'm going to make next. But I will say that this isn't complete. I'm going to sit with it, look at it for a long time, and really figure out where are the areas that I need to push and pull. I mean, that's the professionalism of an artist and an artist's art. But I find that giving it some time, putting it in the back of my head, really allows me a chance to solve problems rather than just sitting and thinking about them or stressing over them at the easel. I just let them sit in the back of my mind, and they seem to provide themselves natural answers the next time I revisit a piece. So for now, it's done. Join me again, who knows what it'll be, for episode 11. Thank you, take care.